Hello and welcome to How to Start Up, a podcast for anyone starting a company. This is a collection of conversations with people who have all successfully started, run and even sold their own companies, sharing not only professional but personal experiences on what we should be doing now, next or never. Founding a company can involve daily challenges and difficult decisions. And as we enter our 7th season of the podcast, I wanted to hear from specialists in various areas of health and well-being on how founders can look after themselves while starting a company. As if the founder isn't looking after themselves, it doesn't really bode well for the rest of the business. I hope the advice and guidance that they share in these episodes will help you take care of your physical, mental and emotional health as you build your business. In this episode, we hear from Matt Johnson, TV presenter and founder of the Checkin, an online space to connect people to mental health specialists, as well as the mindfulness book, The Checkin Journal. Given today is Blue Monday, we thought it particularly important to kick off our new season with a focus on mental health. Matt shares his personal advice on how founders can manage theirs, as well as why it is so important to be aware of it too. Hi Matt, thank you for your time today on How to Start Up. It is great to have you here, especially to talk about something that is incredibly important when starting a company. It would be wonderful if you could kick off with just introducing who you are, a bit about your background, and a bit of an introduction to the company that you have started.
First and foremost, thank you very much for having me on. I'm always very grateful to be asked about this subject because it's so important to me. The world of mental health and mental health awareness is my main focus and a huge part of my life. In fact, it is my life. I've been very lucky to combine my skills in journalism and broadcasting and some experience in business with my main passion, which is helping people understand their mental health and their minds and to raise awareness about maybe destigmatizing the attitudes, the Western world's attitudes towards mental health in general. And my story is pretty out there, so it's okay for me to talk about. But if this is anyway something that is new for you, the topic of mental health, it could be quite triggering, this conversation, because I talk about suicide and depression, anxiety, etc., and my affiliation with that. I was very aware of the world of mental health and ill mental health for all of my life. People in my family suffered heavily with it. And not until my late 20s, I started to really suffer with my mental health. And coincidentally, it was at a time where finally things were going quite well for me in the world of journalism, to the point where I tried to take my own life in 2009, just 2 days before Christmas. Thankfully, I didn't get to that point where I did. And my life since then is very much a experimental, inquisitive journey to try and work out why I felt that way and why do other people feel that way. And maybe I could find some answers. Maybe I could find something from my experience to help people. And in a wonderful way, my life took me to This Morning on ITV, which is a daytime TV show. And it got me to a point in my life where I was okay enough to talk about it. So I talked about my issues with mental health and my suicide attempt in the attempt to try and raise awareness and to help people. And the replies and the response that I had from the audience was overwhelming and encouraging and beyond my greatest expectations. And then from that moment in 2013, I've really tried to combine my journalistic capabilities and my knowledge of broadcasting to try and help people help themselves and understand this thing that we call life. It's always a work in progress. I'm always learning. I'm a different person now than I was a week ago. Like at the moment, there's jumps and glitches and steps backwards and 3 steps forwards and 10 steps backwards. But the main focus for me is to try and help people check in with their feelings, check in with why they feel that way, and check in regularly so you can track your mood and your feelings, so you can get a better understanding of your mental health. And then I want to really provide tools, practical tools for people to find that suit them so they can have a healthier and happier mindset.
Incredible. And that's culminated in you launching the Checkin.
Yes, that's it. And by the way, if you can hear a dog snoring, that's my dog Alan Shearer, just to the right of me. He's not fully asleep. So when he does get annoyed with me talking and working, he snores loudly. He's not a dumb pup. He's actually a significant part of my understanding of my mental health. He came into my life about 4 years ago. I was doing well, but I was always finding myself lost and in some sort of quest to find what I wanted to do or who I was and all these things. And what I really needed was stability. What I really needed was accountability. And when Alan came into my life, and he came with a lovely family, new family in London of mine, when I could help out with the dogs, and that really was a real change in direction for me, where I was responsible for a living thing. And since then, he's been, you know, instrumental in all that. All the Checkin stuff has come from there, just from me having to keep something else alive has been instrumental. And I know people do that when they have kids, and I know, but there was something out there that went, look after this little thing, he's going to love you forever, and you're going to learn about responsibility, boundaries, structure, and not being so, as I was at the time, selfish. He's a pivotal part of my mental health journey.
Well, I think, I mean, I dog walked in lockdown, and I've borrowed dogs, and I love dogs, but I haven't been able to bring one permanently into my life. But I know that having that commitment of, I can't not walk that dog needs this walk, I have to go. I never regret going outside and going for a walk. And everyone's like, you have to have breaks, you have to have structure, you have to look after your mental health, your sleep, your diet, everything. There's so many things that you're responsible for, as well as a company and potentially employees and clients and. You get overwhelmed, but having that creature in your life that is more important than you, sometimes that forced self-help, I suppose, is really, I found amazing. So Alan obviously has the show. So what is the Checkin?
The Checkin is something that I found out on a men's health retreat. It's a technique to try and get you into touch with your feelings, your emotions, to be present. And also in the circumstance where I learned it was to try and speak out loud your feelings in front of other people, in front of other men, without any fear. There's lots of fear, but without any fear of judgment is a really major thing for me. It was on a men's retreat called Men Without Masks. And we were all in a circle, 15 lads, men of all ages. And I've never done this before. I've never shared my feelings with anybody, really, apart from my therapist and maybe people when I was drunk, but in a sober environment, in front of other men who I always thought and I always believed didn't like me for some reason. And I always had my own judgments and my ideas of what men and masculinity was. And it was really a pivotal life-changing experiment and exercise for me. So from then, I really realized that journaling was great for me too. So getting all the muddled up thoughts and feelings and emotions and getting that onto the page was instrumental to the increase of my mental health. And obviously as well, the daily, day in, day out scheduling and the consistency was huge for me. So I combined checking in with 3 words, which is, so checking in is you say 3 words that best represent how you feel in that moment with a brief explanation. And if you check in with yourself in a journal, it does spiral into like a nice little plan of the day based on your mood, or you just write about stuff or whatever. It's a beautiful part of your day that nobody can take away, really, and nobody can interfere with.
Which, when you're a founder, your day gets taken away from you all the time. So if you can just start by doing something for yourself, that foundation will just set you up stronger.
That's the thing. I think if you're in any way taken out of your comfort zone or taken to do other stuff with your responsibilities, whether it's business or being a parent or anything, I always encourage people, and I think this is across the board with psychology. I'm not a therapist or a trained psychiatrist at all, but from my experience, that one thing in the morning, in the day that I give to myself, my thing is journaling and checking in, and maybe a bit of breath work now, 10, 15 minutes, and it really sets me up for the day. And I know so many people in business. I talk with people that have huge companies, and I talk with people that have startups all the time. And the amount of people that have found this out the hard way is incredible. You know, the amount of people, high earners, big billion-pound companies that have had to step into the emotional intelligence area of mental health and are checking in with tools or meditation is staggering. And I think, you know, whether it's high-level business, high-level sport, high-level parenting, high-level life, or just a busy level, I think a world where we could step into mindfulness as a tool where it benefits you in all aspects of your life is my idea of where utopia is. What I would love everybody to do is these things, these techniques that I've learned and paid thousands of pounds for retreats and in therapy for, you could teach children. And if we did have a check-in with ourselves every single day and utilize a tool that grounds us and gives us a little bit of self-compassion, the very act of doing that sometimes is good enough. And I just think if you are watching this, and if you are struggling with the day-to-day workload in the business, taking some time out in the morning or the afternoon or whenever you can, where you don't have your screen in your face or where you don't have people telling you what to do, you assert some boundaries and you give that time for yourself to find a tool that works for you to keep your mind calm your central nervous system, not to be bombarded with information as we constantly are. I think it would only benefit everybody. And I think employers as well, if they know this, and some do, some don't. I've worked with building corporations recently to banks, and this is all very new. It's long-term fixes, and it's money saving. If you look after your staff, if you look after your staff's mental health, the amount of money it costs to replace people or to put people on sick leave because of mental health and all these things is beneficial all around for everybody. And I really love to see mental health as a form of precaution instead of just fixing it all the time. And I love the fixing. I'm all about therapy. I'm all about medication if necessary. But if we could implement these tools, implement these strategies and programs within the working environment, and especially if you're working on your own, if you're starting up a new company, if you're in these floating desk situations in these offices in cities or across the country, across the world, it's so important to have structure. It's so important to have these moments for you so you can thrive. And that's what it's about. It's taking some time to fill your cup, to thrive, to be a human being that wants to do the things that you wanted to do. And that's so important to me.
It's so good to hear you say this, because I think I learned this the hard way through a place of lack. I'd always worked really hard and long hours for other people, and then being made redundant, starting a company. I was like, I know I can work hard. I don't quite know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm just going to throw everything at it. And actually lockdown was a blessing for me because there was nothing else to do. There was no FOMO, there was no social life, there was no travel. All I had to do was work. And it was a period of my life, I'd lost my father 6 months previous, so I could grieve in private and just focus on one thing and do it really well. But then, social life kicked off again, and there was other things I wanted to do. And the boundary setting I found really hard, because I was like, I've got this thing that I've been giving every waking hour to, neglecting exercise, neglecting meditation. How do you learn how to set those boundaries?
It's a really interesting one, because I'm experiencing this at the moment. It's something I'm working on. I'm not an expert in the boundary field, and it's a hard thing. And I think the first thing to do is to really assess what you want and what your needs are. And that's why the check-in stuff and the journaling is a really good tool to get into that mindset of like, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel like I'm giving too much? Why do I feel like I'm giving too much and they're not giving me anything back?
And it's not expensive, time or money-wise. It's not like you have to commit to 10 therapy sessions with somebody. The check-in to me seems very, very accessible and very doable. So for a new founder that's budget poor, it's something that they could, it's just time, right? And practice.
It's just time, which is probably more expensive and more valuable than anything in the entire world. So like you give that 10 minutes to yourself, that's like giving you, think of it as like monetary things. Like I think my idea of what work is going to the gym. I'm going to work. I'm going to do some meditation. I'm doing some work because it's part of work. It's part of your working mindset that gives you a better opportunity to succeed and to improve and to grow as a business or as a human being. And lots of us now, we've all got to have social media bloody presence. Everything's work. You're posting on social media, you're answering people's messages, it's work. And if you're going to do that, if you're going to class that as work, you got to, all the stuff that makes you better at that, you've got to class as work. And putting boundaries in place is work, and it's hard work. And it's things like, hang on, why am I traveling across London to see my mates all the time? And they never come to see me.
I'm sorry, I live in Battersea. Like, I will win that argument over you. No one comes south of the river.
No, I know. And you go, do you know what? Okay, well, in that time that I'm now saving by not emptying my cup and going to them, I'm going to make my mind and make my place a sanctuary. And that's the boundary that you place. It's like, I'm not going to do that anymore. It's upsetting me, actually. Most of the time, we are aware that there's an issue. We can't put our finger on it. Zooming out, when you look at your big thing, your big trauma from childhood, mine was I'm never good enough. You're never going to be good enough. So what I did for years was pretend to be somebody else. And people liked it. Shiny, happy young lad from Wales and happy to please, people pleaser. Oh, you like it when I please you. I can't say no to anyone. And then now, when I've learned that that was my big thing, and also all the little things that are annoying me and getting on my nerves, like, why am I doing all this work? Actually, why isn't this energy being matched? And I think that's a big important thing for me. I want to be in a situation where I'm met in the middle and people are coming to me, and it's my fault because I was the one rushing over and doing all the things because it was something I was getting from it, because I like to feel needed and I like to fill in the gaps. My entire career is filling gaps in the ether of television. And it's a big lesson to learn. It's taken me nearly 40 years to work out that I need to fill my cup. My cup is important. My space is important. My home is a sanctuary, and my time is incredibly valuable. Not in a monetary sense. It's the only thing we can't buy, and it's so valuable. And unfortunately, when you put boundaries in place, you lose people. And I'm dealing with that a bit recently, whether it's getting rid of old patterns that I put into place where I would people please, or I would enable bad behavior, forgive it, because there's a part of me that I wanted to chase, and I wanted people that weren't available and didn't prioritize me, because
it's really hard to break those habits when you've all of your adult life.
Totally. Yeah, and it's taken me a long time, and hopefully people never get into that situation, because if they kept checked in with who they were from the start, they wouldn't give up their space and their time so easily. They'd have better boundaries. I was boundaryless for years, and now what happens is you don't speak to your friends as much, or certain friends. You have a closer, smaller group of friends, and you have a bunch of acquaintances. People get annoyed, and people say, "Well, you're not stepping up for me." It's like, I understand why you're annoyed, because I've always bent over for you, and now I'm not, and it's pissing you off,
and you have to learn to be okay with that.
Yeah, totally. And it's a big thing, learning that you can be the brightest and juiciest peach in the bunch, but somebody just doesn't like peaches.
God,
and
my
all
mum
those
told me that at 15. I wish she told me that at 10. She's like, by the way, not everyone's going to like you, and you're not going to like everyone. I'm like, you could have told me earlier, but you forget. And then
you do forget. It's a big old thing. Lots of this stuff people can tell you. You can read books and learn about it. You can see an Instagram post with that quote, but until you experience it and put it to action, and then go, why am I feeling bad? Oh shit, people don't like me and it's pissing me off. Why do I want everybody to like me? Or why is that person being mean to me now? Oh, it's because I've put some boundaries in place and they don't like it. Oh, because I'm not doing what they want. Oh my gosh. Like, until you do it and activate it yourself and utilize it in practice over time, that's when you really learn about this. You can read all the books you want in the world, but we're not robots. We don't take in the information and become that immediately. We've got to experience it. We're human beings, and we have to put things into practice and often learn the hard way. Hopefully not like I did, but in a way, to have the knowledge early on, then to put it into practice, make mistakes, and then learn. That's also a wonderful reality for me.
Well, I've followed you for a while, and I have so much admiration for you being so honest and vulnerable and putting it out there, because I know particularly men are really bad at dealing with or facing up to mental health issues. So the fact that you have put it out there for other people to try and learn from is incredible, but would make you very vulnerable. And then obviously launching the Checkin as a business, you work in a place that is full of vulnerability. Like, boundaries must be so important for you. Like, have you recently found methods to protect yourself from feeling all the things all the time?
No.
Not yet.
This is a new process for me. No, because feeling the things is important.
Yeah.
That's what I'm realizing in this most recent part of my life. I have done so much work to work out what my thing was and what my patterns were and why I behaved in a certain way, why I reacted to these feelings. I would feel bad and I would drink, and I would disassociate myself from these feelings. I would avoid them. I wouldn't accept them, and I would mask it or suppress it with negative, toxic behaviors, shall we say. Even the distraction of like being on my phone. Like my phone is like wonderful. Let's not think about things.
Doom scroll.
And what I've realized, yeah, exactly. And what I've realized, when I've now had a wonderful situation in my life where I've learned and I've really felt and I understood these feelings and I've learned how to react in a more positive way. Me having a bad situation and feeling bad. More recently, I've put it into practice into a positive light. I put that energy into myself. I put that energy into other projects, and it's really bolstered everything up. I've gone, oh my God, that's amazing. Before I would be gone for 3 months, like mentally checked out, bad situation, especially of the heart. I would, I wouldn't be necessarily present, and I definitely wouldn't be kind to myself. So when I put into practice more positive reactions, it's really great. But you still have to feel the feeling. And I did that. And I did it recently. Yeah. I put all my energy into stuff and always positive. I loved myself dearly. And I was healthy and I put candles on. Like I had nights in with me and Alan, just watching films and self-care and all the things. But then all of a sudden, because I'm open, I'm like, what am I feeling today? Oh, I'm feeling bad. And that's the thing. What happens when you heal, you do all the healing, is that you realize you can't avoid them. So you don't do things to avoid. You don't have patterns. So you get rid of your bad patterns. And then you realize good ones can be just avoidant tactics as well. So you're left with feelings. Fucking feelings. And it's painful and glorious because that is the human experience, I realized. The hard way. I've read this many years ago, but now I'm only truly sitting with all the feelings that life wants you to have and life gives you and what you will go through. And that's fine. So many people, for so many years, I always thought that I should feel good. So when I avoided feeling bad, I would suppress it down and I would do something negative, or I would avoid it with something that was numb it. It would make me feel worse. So instead of just sitting there with my feelings, exploring it and going, today, I'm just going to be sad. That awareness has really helped me get to places where I have better compassion for myself. I have more compassion for other people. And I really use it and I work with it. I've been diagnosed with depression, but I go, that's my starting off point already. Then when something bad happens, of course you're going to feel rubbish. But what I don't do is mask it. What I'm trying not to do is healthy distraction tactics, because it's still a distraction. And I'm sitting with it and it's really nourishing.
When you're starting a company or you're self-employed and the responsibilities on your shoulders, everyone says to me, as long as you're okay with a roller coaster, I'm like, what roller coaster? Oh, that roller coaster. Oh, I don't know if I am all right with that roller coaster. That one. You are going to have shit days. You are going to have days where you wonder what the hell you're doing and why you're doing it. And I think a lot of people go, oh my God, you're self-employed. You have unlimited holiday and you can do anything you want. I was like, no, I have a mortgage to pay. I have salaries.
No, it's the opposite.
Yeah, you're more tied in, and someone said you're never going to not think about your business. You have a shower, you go for a run, you'll always be thinking about it because you'll love it so much. Hopefully, that's a good thing. But and that's why mental health is so important, because if you don't have that foundational work at the beginning, and I think I was going to ask you about new founders, if they're starting companies, how do they start well with that?
I've seen a quote on Instagram recently where it was like, I gave up my 9 to 5 to have a happier life, but now I'm working 24/7. And I realize if the motivation for what you're doing is necessarily in line with what you love. I mean, people talk about purpose and stuff all the time, and I think that's a bit of a gray area at the moment. Purpose for me, people need things to do, and if you see something in the market, you go, I need to fill that. I can fill that, and if I did that, I could sell that, and I could have a happier life. And I think there's so many different ways to look at this, but really be aware and check in with them. Why are you doing it? And what are you providing? And how can I do the best I can do in this space? And if you're going to be truly honest, and if I would give any advice, it would be things like, do your job, do it the best you possibly can. And to do that, you really have to look after yourself physically. And that is obviously your mental health, because they've separated over the years. Like your brain is still a squishy thing inside your meat sack of a body, right? It's all part of the same thing.
This is a good point.
You look after your health. Like if you're really working really hard, you need to really be aware of how that's making you feel. And if you're working to your best capabilities and your best capacity. And if you're burning yourself out, you're going to have to take some time off. Then you're going to step back. It's going to go backwards. So keeping on top of how you feel physically and mentally is incredibly important. And finding tools where you can get into your body, because a lot of business stuff I've realized over my life is in your head. You lie in bed going, oh, what if I could do this? What if I could do, oh, what if we did this differently? We could take it to a different territory and make more moolah. And you're like, no. I need to really step back. And a lot of mental health stuff with any sort of Western world problems of information is getting into the body, getting out of this information-based landscape that we live in. And it's grounding, it's going for walks in nature, it's breath work, it's meditation, it's centering yourself in something that you find animalistic or core or whatever it is. That's the opposite of this brain frazzling world that we're living at the moment. And I think if there's any lessons I've learned from starting businesses with people is, or if you're on your own, that's where I am on my own. I've been with people as well, and I've been part of big businesses. Is the main thread for all of them is that you have to really look after yourself. You have to make sure your cup is at least somewhere full before you start sharing it. And if you're on your own, it's very lonely. And I've learned the hard way with this is you have to put a structure into place. You have to really be mindful of your mental health. Try and find exercise if you can to find a way of releasing, getting into the body. Your time is so important. And if you're working 24 hours a day, it's not a badge of honor. You probably shouldn't. The world we live in, everybody's telling us to do more, buy more, do everything. Don't listen to them, because you can only do it in your pace, one day at a time, on your level. Not look at anybody else, not compare yourself to anybody else. If you believe in a project and you want to work at it, brilliant. But your mental health and your physical health is incredibly important for you to get to where you need to be. And if you're on your own, you've got no sick leave, you've got nobody to look after you. It's important that you do that for yourself.
My goodness, that's so true. And I think it's knowing how you tick, and everyone's different, right? But it's knowing, for you, it was journaling and the check-in. Are there any other things, like, is it sort of trial and error that you try different exercises, or you try different breath works, or you try cold water immersion? Like the next season will be a whole focus on wellness and how these things can build you up. But have you got any sort of, not to lighten it, but top tricks or tips for people?
No. And it is all about that. Obviously, if you're struggling with your mental health on a severe level consistently, go to your GP, and you might need medication, and you might need intense therapy. And if it's an incredibly serious situation where you feel suicidal, 999, the Samaritans, or there's charities like Mind where you can go to and talk to somebody right now. First and foremost, do not belittle your own needs. You must take your mental health very seriously, as serious as you would take your business.
Because one does not come without the other. Yeah.
No, I think that's really, because people go, oh, it's only me. Oh, somebody else can do it. Like, maybe you can't. Like, maybe you need to talk to somebody immediately. And if it's happening consistently and all the time, you go and see somebody. And there's people out there that can help you in that situation. But if this is a precautionary measure, or if this is something that you feel you might need and you're having a difficult time, or you foresee a difficult time happening, as we all know, different periods at different times of the year can be busier. Like I get to Christmas, and my September is pretty much training for the winter months, because I know I'm lazy in the winter months. All I want to do is drink wine and eat cheese. Well, I'm a vegan now, vegan cheese, which is not good. But I just want to I want to nestle, and and it gets busier for me. My work always gets busier in the winter time. All these award ceremonies, all these events, or all the different type of Christmas specials and the big things that we do with the people's postcode lottery. It's a busy time. I get to Christmas Day and I'm like, ugh. So as a preemptive measure, and I think this is a metaphor for life, the most important thing is to keep track of your mood. Check in with how you feel. That's the starting point, which is why I think the check-in is a really valuable asset. It is a tool, but mainly it's a tool to get you to the tools that you need. And as you asked, then top tips and tricks and tools and stuff. I have a tool list, a toolbox that's massive now, and it's taken me years to fill her up. And they're all full of so many different things for different feelings and moods. And very interestingly, like I said, I'm sitting in a place where I'm sitting with feelings, and I have the privilege and luxury to be able to do that, and safety after lots of work. I've got therapists and coaches and my own tools that I feel necessary, which is why I think, for everybody, if you were to have an understanding of how you feel and why you feel that way, and if it's not a good feeling, if you've got a toolbox that you've experimented with, and you could just pluck one out and utilize that, the very act of doing something and the actual act is really, really helpful for you. For example, if I was feeling incredibly anxious right now, I would immediately go into box breathing, which is 4 seconds up, 4 seconds across, 4 seconds down, 4 seconds across, and it's breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. 10 reps of those, my central nervous system chills me out. I had an anxiety attack a couple of weeks ago in middle of the night, where I woke up with, I thought I was having a heart attack, or I was just having difficulty breathing. And only because I talked to somebody 2 days previously about box breathing, I tried it and it worked. And that's going straight into my toolbox. And as well as, right, okay, what am I feeling? What's happening? Okay, I'm feeling anxious again. Take Alan out for a walk. Therapy is also brilliant, and psychiatry is fantastic. I'd always advise seeking therapy and coaches for specific needs. Like, you can get imposter syndrome coaches and all this types of stuff now. It's a really amazing landscape out there. There's really great people on Instagram that you can follow. But my main thing is talking and communicating. And sorry for Alan snoring on the best bit.
That one, yeah.
You look at me and went, he's awake. He's a rat bag. My main thing that I would say to anybody, if they're checking in with themselves and it's not cool and it's not feeling great, tell somebody about it. If you're really, really embarrassed to do that, journal about it, really understand what the things are, and then just tell somebody on the bus stop, somebody in work, your mates. And if you are out there, try and make an environment where you show your friends that it is okay to share your feelings. But it's weird to send a group message to a group chat and say, by the way, if anybody's feeling shit, you can just tell us. That landscape, that environment is so important.
I found it incredible when I started telling people I was having counselling, how many other people, oh yeah, I've had it too, but I didn't tell anybody. And then the same with being made redundant. It was like something I thought I'd have shame attached to. And I was like, I was made redundant. I still live to see another day. You just rip the Band-Aid off, and it's encouraging other people. But that community thing, and that's where I love Soho Works, because I have a community of people who will make me a cup of tea if they hear me on a call and I haven't got up for 3 hours, or people who care and people who've got your back and people who know you and have got an eye on you. And when you're self-founded, you can be really isolated. I think a lot I've learned from you today is just learning about yourself and knowing what makes you tick.
We are living in a world where we're being asked to do so much. Technology and information is being thrust upon us, exponentially increasing constantly, and our brains are still the ones that were climbing trees and are sitting around campfires and with nothing going on. It's the same. They've not really developed much in millions of years. Whereas technology, as you can see, as we all know, and the Western world is bombarding you with information constantly, and you need to do something all the time. And so, it's so important to have a grip on how that makes you feel. And like I said, and you said wonderfully, like, Soho Works is a great place because you're on your own, but you're not on your own. And we need people. We need society. We just want to connect. When you do work out who you are and what you need, and there's always things like, I need communication. I need to feel like I belong somewhere. I need connection with human beings. And I need nature. And I need time to myself. And I need time with other people. Right? I need to know when that is necessary. And we've all really got those needs, all on a sliding scale, of course. And, there's so many books and so much literature about this, but it's basic stuff. Keep it simple. Like, if you're working on your own all the time and you're sitting in a house, we all learned this at lockdown. You're on your own in a flat, working away. And people were like, oh my God, actually, I do like people. And I really am looking forward to that. So don't forget that. People say to me, "Oh, I haven't got mental health. So, I can't, understand what you're talking about. But it's really good what you're saying." I'm like, "Yeah, you do.
You're a human being.
Bad things will happen.
Yeah.
We're all
real life is
all
coming
human.
for you, whether you like it
mental
or
health.
not. Yeah.
Wait till somebody dumps you, my friend. Wait till your dog passes away. Sorry, he's awake, snoring, outrageous. There's practical tools for you to implement throughout your day. And like I said, when I learned what my thing was, when I was told I had depression, I didn't see it as a situation where it's like, well, that's okay. That's an excuse for my bad behavior.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I had the best people around me to say, let's work around it, over it, motherfucking through it sometimes,
Yeah.
accept it, and
Yeah.
to go, this is who I am, and that's okay. This is my baseline, and that's fine. And I'm very fortunate. And I think the world hopefully is getting in a better place where we are much more compassionate to ourselves. And it's really difficult. It's really hard to get that structure. It's really scary to be vulnerable and to tell somebody how you feel. But from my perspective, it's the most glorious thing in the entire world. So if anybody's out there that's feeling a little bit fear from that now and again, just put yourself first for the first time, maybe
Yeah.
ever. And you find the right tools, work out how you feel, because your feelings are incredibly important. It's all compassion, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is trying their best, and we all make mistakes. Failure is always a lesson, is all the stereotypes, but it all starts with just being compassionate to yourself, and then understanding yourself makes you more compassionate to other people. And we're all trying. We're all really trying.
Yeah. And as long as
And
you're honest
that's
about it, and
fine.
the first episode of the first season, my friend Harry was like, well, just don't be a dick. As long as you're not a dick and you do work and you do good work, you'll be fine. I was like, I can do that. You just
Well,
try. And especially when you're starting a company, you're doing something you've never done before, how you can expect
yeah.
yourself to do everything brilliantly to start with. You are going to
No.
make mistakes on an hourly basis, and that is good. You'll learn. But being all right
Yeah,
with it
totally.
and not taking it home, not wasting time. Time is so precious. Not wasting time beating yourself up over it if you can. And of course, you're going to have time
Yeah,
doing that as
because
well.
I think we do live in a world where everybody's seen to be perfect on social media. There's
Mm.
always this, if it goes wrong, I'm going to be living on the streets. It's this huge fear of failure. And our brains do that to keep us safe. They
Mm.
say, don't do that. Don't put yourself out there, because what if you fail? What if you do? And the most glorious thing is stepping into that, despite that safety mechanism in your body of anxiety or fear. And the fear is placed on you because of conditioning. And once you go past that, it's still not perfect and rosy and easy and wonderful. You have knocks, and there's days when you don't want to do stuff, and there's days when you plow through that, and there's days when you take that day off, and like it's a human experience where there's so many dark and light and peaks and troughs and ups and downs. And I suppose the message is from people like me in the world of mental health is that that's fine. But as long as you always go back to being good to yourself, always check in with yourself, always put yourself and fill your cup, you can help yourself get through those peaks and troughs and realize that they're actually necessary. You know, there's not one good movie where everything goes right. Can you imagine a film where there's like, right, I want to go and do this.
Boring.
This is the problem. And they just do it all the way through. Like, you have to have the drama, you have to have the ups and downs to appreciate the good, you have to go through the darkness and all the stuff.
Yeah.
When you look back, the bad moments often reshaped your life to put you into the good place that you wanted to be in.
So what we started doing is asking our previous guest what they would like to ask the next guest. And Akash and Nikki from Fable and Main, who are an incredible brother sister founder team, their questions for you were, what failure happened in the past that has actually been a blessing today? And then Nikki's question was, what sparks joy for you other than Alan?
My joy, I'll do the last one first. What sparks joy for me is curiosity. I am really enjoying being curious about everything, about people, mental health, me, my career. And what happens when you're curious, you let go of a plan, or you let go of what you think is going to happen. I know what I'd like to happen, but I'm curious as to how it's going to happen now. So curiosity for me, I love people so much. It makes me really emotional talking about them. And now looking into why that's such a close bond, and being curious to people, in people's mindsets, and why they're in certain ways. Like, it's the greatest joy for me. I find every experience at the moment with any human or anything really enjoyable, because I'm curious.
Yeah.
I have learned the hard way that I know nothing about everything, and it's beautiful.
And then the other question, like, what failure in the past has actually been a blessing in disguise?
It's interesting because, gosh, like, obviously now I don't see them as failures. They're all things that happen. I know if a failure is a lesson, but there's so many failures. I've made so many mistakes. and I will continue to make mistakes. I won't see them as failures anymore. But when I did have my mindset where I would fail and it would be a catastrophe, my major one, which is really lovely, and it's a really good example. I was trying my best all through my 20s to establish a career in the world of media without any person in my family working in the media. My father was a police officer. My mother did part-time work, was an amazing mum, so busy with being a mum and being an amazing mum. Nobody in my world could help me get, and it was like doing the rubbish stuff, like literally, emptying portaloos on film sets and making people tea and sleeping in factories to look after equipment because the alarm broke for nothing to get experience in a world that I didn't even know I deserved to be in. And then I got a shot and I got an opportunity by a wonderful company called Boomerang in Wales to be a researcher on a Channel 4 entertainment / sports Olympics program, looking into the future Olympics, which was in 2012. This was in 2008. I got that job and I did it for a few months. And then I got my first ever journalistic presenting job, hosting for Sport Wales for BBC, where I, over the summer, trained to be an athlete in AFL, Australian rules football. There's a Welsh team, a Scottish team. So I got into the Welsh team. It's good, right?
Love it.
It's the good short shorts. Punch people off the ball. The short shorts and the tank tops. We've both got different reasons why it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
So anyway, back then I got into the Welsh squad and I played against England and I snapped my fibula. I had metal plates put into it. All in all, great day though. We still beat England. I passed the ball amazingly, and we scored the winner from it. Like all great stuff, glory. But then my work were like, well, you can't go out and film stuff now like we wanted you to. You've got a month left of your contract. I was like, oh no. So catastrophe set in, failure. What have I done? And of course I was on tramadol or something, so it was worse. But I was in work the next day, like, no, I'm fine. Like white and like the junkie I was, and like made a real mess of things with it, clanking around with a big cast on for the next 3 months. And I was so hard on myself because I was like, my language to myself was terrible at that time. Like it was so bad. And it contributed towards me feeling really bad then the next year in 2009, where I had my suicide attempt. But in a really beautiful way, even though I still had a long way to go, my producer at the time, Matt as well, said, in the time I still had there, I did some really good journalistic stuff. I did some good, researching, and, I had a bit of a knack for, presentation and shooting, and I could edit and shoot and stuff, which was kind of new then for somebody to do that. It was all, camera crew and sound crews, and all the equipment became more affordable, so you can go out and shoot yourself. It was all very new, 2008. And then he put me forward to Jonathan Hill, who was the lead anchor and producer, ITV Wales News, and they were looking for new reporters who would go out and shoot. And if it wasn't for my huge mess up by moonlighting with the BBC and breaking my ankle and losing my job that I worked 10 years to get in Wales, I wouldn't have gone to ITV Wales News. I wouldn't have learned to become a journalist. I wouldn't have learned to edit properly, do all the courses with camera work, and learn all my skills of, messing up, but in a safe space and being comfortably paid. Not comfortably paid, but like paid.
Yeah, paid full stop.
Paid. I was just paid to do something with holiday pay. Oh my God. And I learned so much from that job. I covered politics, I covered arts, I had my own show where we would go, and it was like a Welsh arts show, but there's so much wonderful stuff in Wales.
Springboarded everything.
And then I had a difficult time in the later years. Like, in 2009 is when I took my own life, and that was the thing. It was like, everything's great, but you still feel terrible. It's like, that's a big lesson for me. Like, wherever you go, you still take your shit with you.
Yeah, you're going to run into yourself.
You still take your shit with you. Yeah, I'm going to go on holiday to make myself feel better. Like, yeah, for the time being, still going to be in your belly. But that's where I later worked out. But from my leg break, from me losing my job that I worked so hard to get, it put me into the path of being a TV presenter and a journalist and a reporter. That took me to ITV, and then that got me to This Morning, and that's changed my life. And it's got me to the places and seen so many things, traveled the world, met incredible people. I think if I didn't have that opportunity, if they just kicked me out, I would have probably given up. And I don't know where I would have been. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe it would have all been fine, but that could have been a totally huge,
different path. But
it could have been a completely different path. But it was from something bad turned into something that's changed my life, and I'm still on that trajectory in that direction. Wherever that's going now, I don't know.
All the people that are learning from you and with you are very grateful for that, I'm sure. And is there a question you wanted to ask for our next guest?
What are your red flags in business?
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
If you don't know your red flags, you get out, because everybody's got them.
Yeah.
Like, this is the thing. Like, oh, that's a red flag. It's like, well, of course, people got red flags. It's how you react to them is the most important thing.
I like that. Thank you.
So yeah, in business and in life, what are your red flags?
No, that's brilliant. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, totally.
But no, thank you, Matt. I can't thank you enough for time. I know how precious time is, so this is unbelievable.
It's my pleasure.
If you'd like to contact Matt, you can find all of his details in the show notes, along with a recap of the advice he so kindly shared. Thank you for listening to How to Start Up. I hope these conversations offer you some confidence, encouragement, and reassurance that you're on the right track. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I'd be so appreciative if you were to rate, review, and subscribe, as it will really help other people starting a company discover it.